This is a video about post-formal cognition and the characteristics that define it. Post-formal thought is a complex and somewhat convoluted concept which can be difficult to articulate. This is the level of thought that adults should evolve into, especially once they have reached mid to old age. Piaget gives us his theory on the mind's development, which is a commonly referred to model of the evolution of thought processes. His last level is formal operational thinking, which includes logical reasoning. However, many theorists now believe that the mind does not stop evolving at this stage. Rather, our thinking processes continue to learn and grow. This is why Senow, along with other theorists, now believe that the final stage is post-formal thought, which naturally evolves after formal operational thinking. However, not all adults reach this level of cognition. Post-formal thought can be seen as many different things. However, there are a few key characteristics which can help to define what post-formal thinking looks like. Post-formal thought goes beyond formal thinking. It is an elevated level of thinking. It is thinking that allows us to organize ourselves in accordance with our environment, to recognize the relationships that impact our being and balances our life. According to Scott Janda and Kerouac, post-formal thinking improves cognition in many ways, including improved ability to analyze and solve complex problems, more potential for creativity, and a greater appreciation and understanding of values such as ethics, affect, and empathy. Kinchelow and Steinberg tell us that post-formal thinking incorporates feminist theory, African-American theory, and subjugated knowledges, which includes higher ethical standards and a progressive view of the world. Senow, one of the primary theorists in post-formal thought, akins post-formal thinking with a dance, an intricate web of thought that pushes beyond formal cognition. Post-formal thought is indeed complex. It is the way adults navigate adulthood and all that comes with it in all dimensions. The dance is a process, the process of continual conscious development. Post-formal thought embraces contradiction, the subjective and emotive qualities in people. It incorporates these elements into decision-making capabilities rather than dismissing them as unnecessary or unwanted factors of the human condition. According to Kinchelow and Steinberg, post-formalism grapples with purpose, devoting attention to issues of human dignity, freedom, authority, and social responsibility. Post-formal thinking is cognition involved in the political, social, and repressive realms of society. It expands the boundaries of what can be labeled sophisticated thinking. Furthermore, it allows for the transcendence of thought, the ideas about spirituality, God, and the afterlife. For the purpose of this video, I will explore post-formal thought through the lens of 3 essays written on the topic. Each of these writings explain post-formal thought, although in different ways. Jan D. Senow describes the cycle this type of thinking takes in the mind. She then breaks down the operations of post-formal thought. 3 types of post-formal thinking are described by Elizabeth Scott Janda and Gudin Kerouac in the article Revisiting Piaget, Could Post-Formal Thinking Be the Next Step? Finally, this video will explore the 4 dimensions of post-formal thinking outlined in the essay, A Tentative Description of Post-Formal Thinking, The Critical Confrontation with Cognitive Theory by Joe L. Kinchelow and Shirley R. Steinberg. According to Senow, post-formal thinking helps to organize all the relationships in our lives. This includes the relationship we have with ourselves, the relationships we have with others, and the relationship we have with the transcendent or spiritual realm. This organization is cyclical, involving 5 steps or stages of thought. First of all, Senow states that this cycle is nested within the physical self, within society, and within historical and transcendental time. Thereby, this cycle takes place in accordance with who we are, where we are in society, and our relationship to the divine. According to Senow, we begin with a prior cognition or thought. This influences our perception, which in turn impacts our behavior. Our behavior will glean feedback from our environment, and that feedback helps to change our cognition, and then the cycle repeats itself. This is the process post-formal thought takes in order to conceive of the world with higher order thinking. This process impacts us in terms of who we are and the society in which we live. Our identity is shaped by the cognitive process of learning, growing, and thinking about complex issues and problems. Furthermore, post-formal thought processes impacts our relationships with family and friends. This cyclical cognitive process does not happen in a linear fashion. Rather, it is a complex web of logics we must address. Thus, post-formal thought helps us to co-create the reality in which we live. There are 11 key operations or methods by which we embark on this cognitive path. Snow describes these operations as ways people interact with, constructed, and knew reality as they thought about it. The common thread throughout these 11 operations is the ability to manage multiple logics at once. These 11 processes are meta-theory shift, problem definition, process-product shift, parameter setting, pragmatism, multiple solutions, multiple goals, multiple methods, multiple causality, paradox, and self-referential thought. Meta-theory shift is the ability to hold more than one logic system in the mind in order to address a problem. Problem definition is the ability to determine a problem and discover more than one way to handle it. The process-product shift is knowing whether to address a problem with a process or a product. Parameter setting is the ability to organize the problem, and pragmatism is the ability to determine the best solution. Multiple solutions, multiple goals, multiple methods, and multiple causality refers to the mind's ability to hold multiple logics at once, whether that be with goals, methods, etc. Paradox, in Snow's words, is a device in literature and humor that takes advantage of the intellect's ability to find the weird aspect of the overlap of two logics. Finally, self-referential thought refers to the mind's ability to be self-aware of the logics considered. Kincheloe and Steinberg address post-formal thought differently by outlining 4 main dimensions or features of post-formal thinking. These 4 dimensions are etymology, pattern, process, and contextualization. According to Kincheloe and Steinberg, these 4 features categorize the nature of post-formal thought. Etymology is our history, culture, and reality. It is an understanding of where we came from and where we are heading. We must first understand our place in the world to cognitively conceive of the etymology of others. As Kincheloe and Steinberg state, as historical epistemologists, post-formal thinkers understand the etymology of knowledge, the way that knowledge is produced, and the specific forces that contribute to its production. Furthermore, post-formal thinkers are in a constant state of self-improvement. It is part of our etymology, considering what influences us, what experiences shape us, what social norms have we blindly accepted. It is always pushing onward to the next level of knowing, thinking about thinking. Etymology also includes our ability to detect problems, which leads to questioning, conceiving of multiple possibilities or solutions, and thus problem solving. Another characteristic of post-formal thinking is the ability to detect patterns in reality, to uncover deep structures. This can be understood by examining the explicit versus the implicit ways of knowing reality. The explicit is the obvious, the simple, and repetitious patterns that exist. The implicit, on the other hand, is much deeper. It is the unfolding of patterns to find the hidden patterns, and of course, post-formal thinking is concerned with the implicit order of reality. Post-formal thinking transcends common sense. It makes the invisible visible. According to Kincheloe and Steinberg, these hidden realities are inseparable from implicit orders that ultimately are to be found at the base of all experience. Furthermore, identification of patterns extends to the patterns found in relationships. This includes metaphoric cognition, which is the ability to find patterns between 2 opposing or different things. Post-formal thinkers have a heightened sense of empathy as they are able to see the patterns that exist in reality in terms of oppression. Understanding derived from the perspective of the excluded or the culturally different allows for an appreciation of the nature of justice, the invisibility of the process of oppression, and a recognition of difference that highlights our own social construction as individuals. Patterns also allow post-formal thinkers to see the connection between the self and the world. This is the idea of the collective consciousness that exists in the world. It is the connection between self and reality. Post-formal thinkers recognize that everything is connected, that we create knowledge and thus structure reality. Process is also a characteristic of post-formal thinking, as it is a process of deconstruction of knowledge. Process enables the post-formal thinkers to read between the lines, to find meaning in the silence. Post-formal thinkers see the world as a text to be read. The process of post-formal thinking allows for the integration of logic and emotion, as emotion is a valid construct of the human experience. As stated earlier, post-formal thinking embeds subjectivity into the process of thought. It is the emotion, the subjective, which allows us to feel and thus becomes a form of knowing that transcends the objective. According to Kincheloe and Steinberg, emotionally committed to their thoughts, post-formal thinkers tap into a passion for knowing that motivates, extends, and leads them to a union with all that is known. This idea is common in feminist theory, which is embraced by the post-formal thinker. Another characteristic of process is the concept of holism, which is the ability to look at the larger whole. It is not looking at details in isolation, but connecting to the bigger picture. A holistic view of the world includes emotion, as it is part of the human condition. The last dimension of post-formal thought described by Kincheloe and Steinberg is contextualization. All things must be considered in context. According to Kincheloe and Steinberg, awareness of this braiding induces post-formal thinkers to examine the ecology of everything, as they realize that facts derive meaning only in the context created by other facts. All meaning is understood in context. Meaning construed in isolation fails to glean understanding. Furthermore, contextualization means that all aspects of knowing are accounted for, including our place in the world. Finally, Scott Janda and Kara Koh lay out 3 ways of thinking post-formally: the relativistic, the dialectical, and the meta-systematic. This article describes the 3 types of post-formal thinking and then continues to highlight the different characteristics of each, as well as the common threads between them. According to Scott Janda and Kara Koch, these capacities largely evolve through lived experiences, in particular by struggling to resolve conflicts arising from interactions with people holding different priorities and points of view. This brings back the theme of experience, which is highlighted in the other articles. Experience is how we learn and how we grow, how we expand our mind. Another important element to post-formal thought is the importance of relationships, which is another reoccurring theme. This could be relationships between 2 conflicting ideas or logics, relationships with self, or relationships with others. Relativistic thinking allows for understanding of multiple viewpoints or worldviews, multiple solutions to a complex problem and different perspectives. It also allows for a synthesis of these multiple perspectives, viewpoints, and solutions. Relativism allows thinkers to imagine a variety of frames of reference. This ability elevates the mind. It allows the thinker to understand that learning is relative, concepts are relative, and solutions are relative. The thinker is thus able to see multiple frames of reference in virtually all situations surrounding all logics. Dialectical thinking is the awareness that things are in constant states of change. Learning is fluid, flexible, and evolving. Nothing is known for certain as new knowledge is created. This is significant because this awareness impacts the thinker's entire understanding of truth, as the person is aware that his or her own thoughts, as well as the problem being considered, are in the process of evolution. This awareness is what leads to growth in the processes of the mind. Dialectical thinkers are aware of contradictions and are able to incorporate the ideas despite the inconsistencies. Meta-systematic thinking is the ability to see the value in relationships, to find a common theme between these relationships, even if the things in relation are differing. Meta-systematic thinking allows us to reach beyond the bounds of any single theory to consider possible explanations for problems or relationships between variables, and then combine or change those systems to craft new meanings. This is important because the world is filled with conflicting ideas, logics, and perspectives. The ability to find the relationships that exist between differing things allows thinkers to then create new knowledge. As this video has shown, post-formal cognition is a complex web of thoughts. It is the type of cognition that should naturally evolve in adults as they increase their experiences in life. Post-formal thought is about relationships, patterns, and processes. It is about experiences, emotion, and subjectivity. Post-formal thinkers know how to read between the lines, embrace contradiction, and find patterns in thought. Post-formal thinkers are co-creatives of reality and of knowledge. This is an elevated way of thinking, a higher order of thinking, a deeper way of thinking. Post-formal thinkers are more ethically in tune, more aware of the oppression and power struggles that exist in the world around them. Imagine the possibilities for education and the world if all adults could embrace this type of cognition.